most important question, what is the corporate tax?
Corporate tax is basically a tax which is paid by businesses.
But I heard if you turnover less than 300,000 in a year, then you're exempted from paying this amount.
If you generate a profit below 375,000 dirhams, then the tax rate is 0.
Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome back. My name is Katerina, and today I have a special guest from POA.ie, Miraziz, and we are going to discuss about the corporate tax, VAT and accounting system in UAE. Good afternoon, Miraziz. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Katerina. My pleasures.
So let's start with the most important question, what is the corporate tax?
Corporate tax is basically a tax which is paid by businesses from the net profit, or let's say taxable profit, and of course there is a definition what is taxable profit, but in general it's a net profit of the company, and they pay 9% tax from that profit.
Who's supposed to pay this? Are all businesses eligible for this corporate tax?
In general, yes. Of course, there are certain sectors which are not subject, and also depending on the volume or the amount of turnover, some businesses are exempted. So, for example, small businesses who do turnover up to 3 million dirhams, they can also apply for exemption because it's called small business, and the government doesn't want to charge them tax. But in general, yes, everybody has to pay. Whoever doing business in UAE, they have to pay
But
tax.
I heard if you turnover less than 300,000 in a year, then you're exempted from paying this amount.
It's not turnover, it's actually a profit. If you generate a profit below 375,000 dirhams, then the tax rate is 0. But if your profit exceeds 375,000 dirhams, which equals to $100,000, then from the exceeding amount you pay 9%. So actually, if you calculate this way, the tax rate is not actually a 9%. So if you make a profit of, let's say, $200,000, you pay 0% up to $100,000, and then exceeding amount you pay 9%. So if you split it, it will become 4.5%.
Yes, that's right. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So you only pay tax on the exceeding amount.
On the exceeding amount, yes.
Very nice. And also I know everyone have to register for this corporate tax. Either you reach this profit or not, you have to register. And I know some people got a fine for not registering on time.
Yeah, the registration is mandatory for every company, whether you are taxable, whether you reach the threshold or below the threshold, doesn't matter. You have to register, and also you have to file the tax returns. So when you file, of course, if you are not, if you are below the threshold, if you haven't done any profit, let's say exceeding 375,000 dirhams, then you pay with 0 tax return. But filing is mandatory. Yeah.
Perfect. And now let's speak about the VAT.
Sure.
What is it? How does it work? Who is eligible for paying VAT, etc.?
Yeah, VAT is value-added tax. The companies has to charge 5% on the services or on the goods they sell, and they have to collect 5% and pay to the government, basically. So in UAE, the VAT rate is 5% or 0%. Or some activities, some businesses are exempt.
What kind of businesses?
So, for example, if you are in, there are some businesses which are subject to 0%, and there are some businesses exempt. Let's say bare land or like a plot of land where there's no construction. If somebody sells this bare land, then there is no tax. It's exempt. It's called exempt supply. And there are some services which are subject to 0%. For example, healthcare services. They are subject to 0%. And the majority, all other activities, they are 5% taxed. Yeah.
Can this 5% VAT be reclaimed on the business expenses?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So when a business files tax returns, either monthly or quarterly basis, they can calculate the tax that they have collected, and they can minus the tax that they have paid on their expenses and pay the balance to the government.
Okay, so how the businesses can handle VAT effectively if, for example, they don't have a proper accountant? If, let's say, it's a startup company or online business, how can they handle all these VAT requirements?
Yeah, I mean, first of all businesses, they must do proper accounting. This is by law.
Absolutely.
All businesses, they need to have proper accounting, and they need to keep documentation.
To have a bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping, yes. They need
What
to
is the most common system used in UAE for the bookkeeping?
there are many softwares. There is Zoho, there is Tally, there is QuickBooks, and even the 1C. We call this from the CIS countries, you know, the program 1C.
Yeah, it's one of the very old systems which been used in
yes,
Russia, I think 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So
now
even
it's been adapted for UAE market as well.
yes, they have their software which is customized to the UAE tax system, and comparatively the tax system is not so complicated in UAE. It's still in early stages, and the government, they don't want to make it very complicated system. So everything is simple, but at the same time, the companies, they must do proper accounting, and it can be checked by the tax authorities for the past 5 years minimum. So if it is related to real estate transactions, even more than 5 years, they can check for if I'm not mistaken, for the past 15 years also. They can check, ask for the documentation. So that's why it's very important to do proper accounting. If any company or any entrepreneur, he understands the accounting, he can do it himself, that's fine. There's no requirement to hire a full-time accountant, but they must be proper accounting. Or the companies can outsource their accounting to outsource companies.
I think it's very common practice in UAE.
Yeah, it is very common practice,
and your companies provide those services, right?
Yeah, we do.
So what you do bookkeeping, accounting, and audit. I believe audit is also one of the requirements for every company to have every year by the end of the year, right?
Yes. So we do full accounting services in-house. We do tax advisory, filing of VAT or corporate tax, and also we do assistance with audit. So audit is for some businesses, it's mandatory to do audit, even though the authorities may not ask, but by law it's required for companies to do audit on annual basis. And they need to keep all the documentation, supporting documentation, invoices, receipts, bills, everything in their accounting system. Yeah.
Is there any difference in tax treatment between residents and non-residents?
For non-residents, when it comes to VAT, for example, non-residents, if they came here as a tourist, they purchased some goods, they can claim the VATs they paid while they leave at the airport. But residents, they cannot claim this VAT on the expenses. When it comes to corporate tax, I mean, corporate tax applicable to the businesses which is doing business in the UAE.
You
So
have to be the
you have-
residents by default.
Exactly.
Miraziz, you know, we have lots of international clients. Some are residents, some are non-residents from US, from UK, from USSR, and they're asking me, so if I buy the property here, they don't have any property tax in UAE. However, in their home country, there are taxes. So they ask, if I buy the property here, should I pay tax in my home country, whether it's US or UK or Europe?
Yeah, there are two main points here they need to consider. One thing is the tax residency. So, are they still tax resident in their home country? This is one question. If they are tax residents in most of the countries, they are still subject to tax, unless they change their tax residency. Second, some countries, they require to pay tax for your even foreign assets. Let's say a person is from some European country and he is still a tax resident in his home country. The government or his country government may require him to pay tax even for a foreign asset, let's say located in the UAE. So these are two things. Of course, not all countries require to pay tax for foreign assets, but most of the countries now they are implementing rules, requiring their citizens to pay tax or a tax residence, let's say. So that's why it's very important to also understand your tax residency. Maybe if you are subject to tax in your home country, then you might need to change your status as a tax resident and become a tax resident in the UAE. If you become a tax resident in UAE, then the UAE has treaties with many countries to avoid double taxation. So, which means that if you are considered tax residents here, you will not pay tax in other country. So that's very crucial, the status of tax residency. And of course, not all countries ask to pay tax for foreign assets. Some countries, they still require.
Okay, great. And I would like also to ask, what is the most common errors people do while filing their VAT?
So one thing is they keep charging VAT on everything without differentiating, is it subject to 0% or is it subject to exempt supply? So in order to avoid any mistakes, let's say, or they don't want to study well, or they don't consult with a professional, they just keep charging VAT on everything. This is one big mistake. Second mistake is about the expenses. Like if you have done expenses which were subject to VAT, you can claim them, but many businesses, they just don't pay attention to it, or they have lack of documentation, because when you do expense, you need to have proper invoice with proper details on the invoice, and only after like complying with those requirements you can claim VAT on your expenses. So, and another one is lack of documentation. Like many businesses, they don't keep proper documentation related to their accounting, let's say. Yeah.
Okay, and my final question is, how does UAE taxation compare to other business hubs like Singapore or Hong Kong?
UAE is still one of the lowest tax jurisdictions all around the world. Even Hong Kong or Singapore, they have on average 16-17% corporate tax when it's 9% in UAE. So comparatively, it's still one of the lowest tax jurisdictions. And also, it's simple. In UAE, we have two different types of taxes only. There are not so many taxes. We have VAT and corporate tax. In other jurisdictions, there are like many different types of taxes. Sometimes you get confused, you know, like, and then when you combine them, it can come 20-30% together. But UAE is still, even though they introduced tax, but still considered one of the lowest and simplest jurisdictions for tax.
Absolutely. Any final advice to our audience in terms of accounting and taxation?
Yeah, I mean, one advice is, you know, once you establish your company, start doing accounting from the beginning. Don't leave it for later, because later it can be costly and difficult to bring your accounting into proper order or system. So it's better to start from day one to do proper accounting. And also understand the taxation rules properly. There's a big misconception now in the market. Like, people say, I want to set up a free zone company because I don't want to pay tax. But it's not like that. So even if you set up a company in free zone, you might be subject to tax. So you have to understand in what cases or under what conditions you are exempt, or you can get exception from tax. So understand the taxes properly, understand whether you are going to pay tax or no, based on your business model, not based on the jurisdiction.
Thank you very much for today. I hope this session was useful for you. Please like, subscribe. Let us know in comments what you think about this video. If you need any assistance, we will be more than happy to assist you. And see you in my next video.